Hi everybody, it's John Bell. I'm going to be doing a shorter episode here on Braven Bushcraft. Trying to kick it off and get things rolling. I got to crouch down a little so I can have some image here. We're doing a pocket dump today for EDC carry. That's a common word nomenclature in the military community and prepping survival community as well, called Everyday Carry (EDC), and it's common to do a pocket dump, which Sean Ryan made famous on his show, which highly recommend everyone checks out. I'm sure many of you already do. He's got a huge following. Great guy, former Navy SEAL, interviews a lot of. He's like the Joe Rogan of the military side, you know. But anyway, I love his episodes on the pocket dumps. I think they're fantastic, and I get uh, a lot out of them. So, following in that, I wanted to start off with the pocket dump, just on my own situation, and give people an idea of what to carry who may not be familiar or just like interested in pocket dumps. So, starting off, most important thing you can have in a pocket dump, if I can get it out of my waistband. All right. This is not loaded, made safe, so the screamers, don't get too upset. It's the Glock 43. Glock 43, a very common choice. Was one of the number one types of carry concealed weapons for a long, long time. A lot of people have switched over to the new SIG, a micro, the 365. I've got one of those myself, and I love it. I actually shoot better with the SIG than I do my Glock 43. However, that said, the Glock 43 is just a little bit smaller, so I'm more comfortable carrying it. It conceals better. The SIG conceals pretty well, but it's slightly bigger than the Glock 43. So if I know I'm going into a a bad area or a potential thing where there's more of a threat level, then I will carry my SIG because it has more rounds. Um, this one has 6 rounds, and I've got an extended magazine well that gives it an extra 2 rounds. So I get 8 from the 6. I get 8 rounds. So with the SIG, I get 16 rounds. So quite a bit more. However, like I said, I'm just very comfortable carrying this one, and it's just so small you almost forget it's there. I do carry in my other pocket an extra magazine with a little pocket clip, and it sits deep in the pocket, so you've got more rounds if you need. Also, I have a little what do you call it, like a cable wire Velcro strap. I think this is an 8-inch cable wire Velcro strap, and I put it on there so I can fit my flashlight on there as well. You always want a flashlight, so I just keep one handy. It's a little string light. Sorry, stream light flashlight that I keep on there. I can take it off, but you always want to have a light on hand. So that's also in my pocket dump as well. Moving on. Everybody should carry a knife. This one is from Ernest Emerson. He originally designed knives for SEAL Team 6, and the SEALs, they really liked it. He came up with this little hook here that catches on your pocket so that when you pull it out, it automatically draws. So that's really nice. And this is one of the newer flipper models. So you just take a finger and it flips out. Do that again from the side view so you can see better. Just a single finger, so it comes out very simple. I also carried his karambit. Try to get this in somewhat camera range. I also carried his karambit with the karambit style blade. One of the reasons I really like this is not only is it very effective in combat situations, but I went through EMT school, and for EMT stuff, you put your finger on here and you come through pants and you can shear through them. So it acts as almost scissors for shearing through pants and stuff like that. So, and I don't have to carry scissors on me. So I like that as well. The Krombit's real fancy. You can flip it around like it's a butterfly knife or something like that. It's fun to play with, but can be very dangerous. Got to be very careful. They do one thing that's nice about the Ernest Emerson Krombits is they make trainers. I'm losing the word. They make trainers for them so that you can practice with it, which I highly suggest that you do. I did buy the trainers. His knives are not cheap. You can find cheaper Krombits, but I can't seem to get this anywhere where I can get it on camera just right, and everything's the opposite. So, but anyway, so of course, gun safety. In law enforcement, we never put our fingers on the trigger until you're actually ready to fire. So your finger acts as your first safety. All right. Also, follow the laser rule when you're dealing with any people. And whatever it points at, it can potentially kill. So you have to watch where you point it. Even when you're handling it or turning around on the desk like I just was. I even turned it facing myself. Anyway, moving on. In the pocket dump, also on my keychain, I carry a little photon light on my keychain. These are great. They're also great to put on zippers on your coats and stuff like that, just so when you're in the wild, you actually have something that you can, if you forget or lose something or the battery runs out, you still have a spare. Also, in little tents, I always put these up at the top of the tents and just leave them there when I pack the tent. So I always have a light inside the tent when I need it. Light lasts a long time, especially if you're not just locking it on into place. But at least you have a light whenever you need it. You need multiple lights. Also carry this is an Exotech ferrocerium rod. All right. The ferrocerium rod, as many people know, some call it fire steel. All right. You pull this off, and then it has a little device you can put on that you screwed off the other end. So now it makes this little device. All right. And the little thing you pulled it off with has a little striker on it, and you can take this. I'm not going to run it through it because it ruins the outer coating, but you take this, you run the striker across it, and you can start a fire. Now, very important on these ferrocerium rods, they're very safe. It's not going to combust. It's very, very safe. So you don't ever have to worry about that. You can carry it anywhere you go. It's no threat in any kind of way. And it just puts out a few little sparks. But those few little sparks, if you know what you're doing with a proper tinder bundle, you can then make fire with, and it lasts a whole lot longer than lighters do. In fact, I just refilled this one not too long ago, and already I have a problem. I love Zippos. I love playing with them, like pulling them open and just playing with them all the time. And so I'm running out that fuel, even just lighting it for a second, but I just like playing with them. Even in high school, I used to carry one around with me and just play with it all the time. But they run out of fuel very quickly. And if you don't have the fuel on you, then you can't refill it. So what good is it? However, good little survival tip, you can take the flint out of here and use it in an emergency to still see how it still sparks. So you can still potentially start fire with that. It's very similar to the ferrocerium rod, okay? So just keep that in mind. But the ferrocerium rod, one thing that's important, I see people all the time chopping on this thing or chopping it like a 45-degree angle. You don't want to do that. You're just going to ruin your rod, and that's not very smart, or just not a good way to take care of your rod. It's not going to last if you do that. All you do is a simple motion from one end straight across the other in a uniform fashion, applying just a little bit of pressure till you get some sparks. That's all you got to do. It doesn't take much. When you're trying to light a tinder bundle, it might take 2 or 3 times to get it going, kind of thing, but that's all it should take. It shouldn't take a whole lot. Sometimes different conditions, it might take a little bit more, but you get the basic idea. So that is the ferrocerium rod. All right. One other thing I keep, um, one thing I wanted to talk about, I use wire headphones. You know, the rage today are little earbuds. The problem is everyone knows how dangerous it is to stick your phone next to your head. All right. You should be doing it for long periods because of the radiation levels of the heads, especially those 5G phones. See, with a 4G phone, I can set this I can set this down at somewhat of a distance from me, and as long as it's not on, I'm fine. With the new 5G phones, people are not aware of, even having it this close to you, not on, is still bombarding your body with constant radiation. That's very, very unhealthy for you. Nobody should be using 5G phones or above. This is a 9. They started doing the 5G after the 9. Um, but going back, I also use the wired earbuds. The reason why is because same thing. All these little earbuds are sending radiation into your head. It is dangerous. It is not healthy. So I use the older ones, and I rarely ever hold the phone up to me when I'm talking on the phone. I use the speaker. I keep it away from me. When I can't do that, I put in the little headphones, which I always carry with me. So that's another little tip. Uh, Also, in my if I don't normally carry a multi-tool with me very often. I always keep one close by, like usually in my vehicle or my pack kind of thing. But I don't normally carry one on me. When I do, it's this one. It's the smallest thin one. This is the skeleton model. It's kind of a stripped down version. Still has your pliers, right, and your little cutters, wire cutters, but it also has, and it still has a bit that you can do. I just 9 times out of 10, you have the Phillips on one side, standard size, flathead on the other, and it handles like 80% of jobs. You know what I mean? So, and then it still gives you a little knife. So that's great. Um, I've used this tool for a long time. It does store another extra bit here, which by the way, I put a bit in there for putting my bows together. A lot of my bows use the same standard size nut for uh, for putting my recurves together. So I've got that. I carry that bit in here as well, so it becomes a tool for me putting my bows together. And I always carry one of these with my bow kits. Um, it has a little clip on right on the other side, which also acts as a church key or bottle opener for those who don't live in the South. Anyway, let's see what else I got. Oh, one other major thing I carry with me on my kit is I have a little first aid bag. All right. Um, and I'm not going to break this completely open right now. One thing I carry in here, this is a little tough cuffs key for, they act as kind of police cuffs if you don't have police cuffs on you. But I also use it as a tourniquet because it tightens one way. So I use it as a small tourniquet in my kit. I guess I will pull it out. I keep what's known as a bulky bandage in first aid. It's rather small, but still it's a bulky bandage. It's enough to cover a wound with a sterile wrap, and then I can take anything other material, shirts, clothing, and stuff around that if I need larger. As long as I've got something that's sterile on the wound itself, you're good to go. And this can also act as a small wrap for smaller issues, like wrapping around your wrist, your arm, kind of thing. So you have your bulky bandage. See if I can make some room in here. PPE, your personal protective equipment. All right. So here I've got a set of latex gloves. All right. I also have, I actually have a small mask to put over my face for PPE, and I always carry sunglasses. So if need be, that would be my eye covering. All right. Also in here, I carry candy. You never know if somebody or even yourself will run into a situation where you have like low blood sugar for some reason. I had one time where after I did a big workout and hadn't eaten in a few days, me and a buddy went to get a massage, and 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 in the middle of them like working on my back, trying to loosen up my muscles after my workout, I started dropping low sugar. It doesn't normally happen, but it did. I hadn't eat. I had been fasting for a few days, and I did a hard workout because I knew I was going to eat that day, but I didn't have anything to replenish in my body, and I started to almost pass out. So you always want to carry a hard candy on you. Besides, you never know if someone else is going to need it when you're around in public. So I carry that. Um, this is actually a tiny little first aid mask for your mouth if you have to give CPR. So this came in a little kit by itself on a keychain. I just took it out and added to my little pocket kit. But it just makes a one-way valve mask so you can give CPR safer than without having any kind of protection. All right. Um, Also pulling out of here, I usually carry alcohol strips. You know, everywhere today, people want to sanitize everything, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. Although it's always better to wash your hands than to actually use sanitizer. But in a pinch, sanitizer is good. But when you have a chance, wash those hands. Um, but also, I usually keep little alcohol wipes, swabs. And say you go in public, like on a plane or something, you can take one of those swabs and wipe down any surfaces you may be touching. Good little way to sanitize your area. Never know when you've got to sanitize something. So I keep alcohol swabs. I normally also keep an iodine swab in here as well. There's a little trick with that. You can take even a little iodine swab and you can stick it like in a water bottle or something, shake it up and dilute it. And it gives you a large surface area that you can use for different things. Like you can use for different things like if you got to decontaminate large areas or a large wound or something like that, then that's a trick to do it. And as long as you're using a water bottle that hasn't been opened, then you know it's safe, right? So grab a little mint. Now let's see what else. I always carry some large safety pins in here. You can use those for a lot of different things, including if you had to, you can use them to make lock picks, which is something very important to learn. It takes a skill. It's a skill, so it takes a lot of practice. I also carry a little bitty bag of common um, over-the-counter medicines like aspirin. I can't tell you how many times I get a headache and I have to pull out an aspirin from this kit. That's probably what I've used it for the most. That and Band-Aids. It's actually out of little Band-Aids right now because I use them all the time. I got to refill it. So Band-Aids I use the most, and then little aspirins I use the most out of this kit. But also in here, I have some Benadryl as an antihistamine blocker in case someone's struggling with sinuses. I've got two doses in here. Two actually make a very mild sedative, so it makes a safe and mild sedative if need be. I have some Aleve. I got some Tylenol, basic painkillers. All right, and again the aspirin. If someone's having a cardiac situation, they always recommend, not for stroke. That's very important, but for someone struggling with chest pains and possible heart attack situation, you want to thin the blood with aspirin. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice per se. I'm telling you, I've had training as an EMT, and this is what I would do for myself. So if you do have to take an aspirin for you're having chest pains and you're concerned or whatever, then what you want to do is you want to take the aspirin sublingually, which is underneath your tongue. You want it to dissolve underneath your tongue. You don't want to swallow it. You want to dissolve it under your tongue. So keep that in mind. If you're in that situation, that's what I would do if it was me. So anyway, that's my basic pocket dump. Now, oftentimes people carry a sidearm, and if you don't carry a sidearm, that's not a good thing. All right. I'm not going to get on a big soapbox or anything, but if you're not armed and you don't have an ability to protect yourself, there's a word for that. It's called the V word, victim. All right. It's just a victim waiting to happen. You know, our world was a lot safer before we had gun-free zones and gun restrictions. What? When I grew up, every kid in their vehicle at high school had a rifle, pistol, shotgun sitting in their car. You know how many deaths we had at our school or shootings? Zero. All right. I'll give you another example. When I went to college, I carried my pistol with me all the time. You know how many shootings there were at my universities? And I went to several. Zero. So I was always there to protect. I was always going for military and law enforcement. I had a lot of training for that purpose. Yeah, it's a gun doesn't do any good if you don't have training with it. So I highly recommend people go through training courses and get your carry conceal licenses. I'm going to do a separate show just on having a carry conceal license, and cover some basic legal aspects that you need to keep in mind and be aware of with that. But I highly recommend everybody get a carry conceal license. In fact, even in states where they have open carry laws or laws that protect you for carrying concealed, it's always good, especially for legal reasons, to have the protection of it gives you more protection, let's say, for you to get a carry conceal license. It becomes a conundrum of problems if you're ever involved in a shooting. So pray that you're never involved in a shooting. And even if you do everything right and you exercise the correct judgment in an emergency, in a crisis, when we're not always having time to think straight or think everything out, you can still be criminally and civilly charged for even following all the rules correctly. And a lot of times it can be just up to the mood of a judge or their own personal persuasion or understanding or interpretation, let's say, of the law. So let's hope that you know and the thing is, overall, when it comes, I served in the court system for a long time as a law enforcement officer for a few years, and the thing is that as long as you got to look at the totality of the situation. I mean, is this person someone who's a threat to society, or are they in a bad place in a bad time, kind of thing? Did they act in a reasonable manner? Those are the kind of things that they're going to be evaluating and thinking about when you're in that situation. Sadly, though, we live in a crazy world today, and it seems like our judicial system seems to be changing in crazy ways that it's never done before. So we've always had something in case law called precedents, and precedents is where former cases have helped to shape the direction or course that we're going down as far as determining your guilt in a court case. But now it's like there's almost a reinterpretation of everything, and not in good ways, not in ways that support your rights, your personal self-defense, or the Constitution. Seems to be that people are trying to subvert those things now, and it's almost like you don't have a right to defend yourself anymore. And if you don't have a right to defend yourself, then our country is gone. I mean, it's done. you know America was built on the concept of the First and Second Amendment, because without those two there are no others. And it's just about freedom, and we should have the freedom to protect ourselves. People are always screaming, oh, there's a mass shooting, we got to get rid of gun rights. No, if there's crazy people out there shooting, that means we need more guns. Excuse me. You need more guns in the hands of responsible people. That's how you end crime. That's how you end gun violence. Here's how you end gun violence. A guy pulls out a gun in a mall, and 3 or 4 people pull guns back on him. Guess what? 0 shootings. No one's hurt. The only time someone's hurt is when someone pulls out a gun in a mall and no one else has a gun. And then everyone's just a victim to a crazy person. If we're dealing with more crazy people, we need more people that are armed and responsible, that have trained some degree of training, so that they are safe with that. So they're safe around their children, their kids, their family with that. Um, you want to be able to store them in safe places away from children. Um, when I grew up, or still in southern Louisiana, we teach our children about guns at very young ages. Um, in the event that they might need to defend themselves, but on top of that, it also takes away the mystery of a child of wanting to play with something. You teach them that it's dangerous and to stay away from it, and there's no curiosity there because they've already been exposed to it. And a lot of people here teach their kids, like when they turn anywhere from like 8 to 10 years old, get them their first gun and take them hunting, and teach them. It's all about teaching respect and discipline. Um, it's not for the sake of just trying to hurt anything or just sport or game kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I mean there are sport hunters. I like to hunt. I am a hunter, but I'm not a sport hunter. I don't care about size of racks and all that as long as they're legal. I care only about food. And um and but here's another thing too. Hunting gets a bad rap because people don't understand that you have to have a certain degree of size in the herd, and the state's wildlife and fisheries regulate all that. So if you just never killed an animal, then the whole group of the animals would become unhealthy in a lot of ways. And that's one of the things that they regulate. The hunting, as long as it's done in a regulated manner and people follow the rules and the laws, it helps all the other animals to be safer and healthier. It helps them to be healthier. um, those are things that a lot of times people that are anti-hunting and stuff don't take into account. And this is very important. The Second Amendment was not created for hunters. It was created for people to be able to defend themselves, even from their own government, in the terror that should ever happen. And I certainly don't advocate violence and don't advocate ever, trying to have any kind of altercation with government. But the Second Amendment was given to us for the express purpose of these were people that lived under tyrannical tyrants of their government that were against the people. And there's always, if you study history, there's always the threat of a government turning tyrannical against its people. George Washington said, anytime a government doesn't trust its people with guns, then that government has bad intentions for those people. George Washington also said, if the government wants to take your guns, it's your duty to take away their right to govern. This shall not be infringed upon. It's not it's a right for a reason. And you can't really take a right away, in a sense that a right is something that people are willing to die for. All right, they're willing to die for, they're willing to give up their lives to defend. And to quote Thomas Jefferson, he said the tree of liberty has to be shaken at times with the blood of tyrants and patriots. You know, that means that history repeats itself. I was even listening last night to George Lucas talking about Star Wars. And he was saying, hey, the theory, the whole concept of Star Wars is how do good people become bad that think they're good people, but they're really bad people? And how do people lose freedom to tyrants taking over and destroying everything because of their own egos, you know, all in the name of good, but it's bad. So that's the whole purpose of Star Wars is to show that. He says, if you study history, it repeats itself. Free countries always end up going that route, it seems like, over history, you know? But anyway, not trying to proselytize. But I just wanted to show a quick pocket dump and show, what I carry and some of the practical things. One of the things I don't see often enough when I see pocket dumps is first aid kits. Now, a lot of times, especially prior military guys, will always carry first aid kits in their bags, in their kit, if you will. But I think we should also have a pocket first aid kit that we carry on us as well if we're carrying these other things. Most people die in gun shootings from bleeding out. So having tourniquets on hand and multiple tourniquets, especially with kits, is a very important thing to have. Um, and scissors for being able to shear quickly through clothes so you can evaluate the injuries and get to the wounds. So, and also take some basic first aid training as well, just as important as any type of pistol training. You can even buy DVD series online that can, if you don't have time to go through courses and stuff. It's always good to know. Get some books on the subject. Always have them on hand. Always have them close by. You can't have enough as far as first aid. Now, you can only do so much outside of having a hospital or professional care, but you can learn a ton of stuff prior to that level. And I highly recommend that, including CPR and using AED devices. All right. I actually, in my kit, have an AED device. All right. I can tell you this: CPR in the movies, yeah, that's for the movies. If someone's heart stops, um, I was told in my training program that heart's not starting again unless you have an AED, a defibrillator. All right. Um, and when we do CPR, all you're doing is keeping the body alive, keeping oxygen flowing to the brain and other body parts until you can get a defibrillator, AED, in order to restart that heart or get them to a hospital or something like that. That's the only purpose of that. I had to do that one time for 30 minutes, chest compressions and breaths. Um, it was a great experience, and we brought the guy back. I don't know how good he was after 30 minutes, but we brought him back, got him in the hospital. So I was glad about that. Um, but anyway, this is my pocket dump. Of course, phone is also comms, right? So communication super important in any kind of event. So you can reach out to other people. But it would be good to have other forms of comms as well, radios. There are times where cell phones don't work. During Katrina in Louisiana, all our phones didn't work. The systems were overrun and power was out everywhere. So local police use radios. So you should use radios. Learn to use CBs. Learn to use FRS, which is what you buy at like Walmart walkie talkies or Cabela's. Learn to buy GMRS, which is like CBs on steroids. Excuse me. Sorry. That takes a license, but it's not any kind of test you have to have. You just send in a fee and it qualifies you and your family for like a year. And they just lowered the price on that. I think it used to be like $80, and I think they lowered it to like 35, 36 or something. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that was the case and that's happened already. Then you have your ham radios that go above that. You do have to have licenses for ham radios. I will be doing more shows on ham radios. I highly recommend you study and get the license. Your first level, general level, there's 3 levels for a ham radio. Your first level is general, then you've got technician, and then you've got I forget what they call that, like um, ultra or something to that degree. But needless to say, your first one, your first level, the general, it's just for basically talking locally. The second level is going to be for talking across country and around the world. So I highly recommend you study. It's not that difficult. I got my first one after studying for like 2, 3 days and took a test. I only missed one. Um, Now I want to go back and do my second level. And if I had known what I know now, I would have done that to begin with. And you can take them both at the same time. You just take one, then you take the other. And I recommend that. I recommend at least getting your second level license. And I'm going to be studying to get mine soon as well. So and I've already ordered the radios for that. So um, and you want to use these things, anything in survival and prep, and you want to start using now. Don't wait till a situation comes and then you're trying to figure out how to use a radio or a ham or something like that, because it's going to be very difficult in a crisis to try to figure out how to work things. So you need to be proficient with those things. Just take a little bit at a time, make a hobby out of it. You can have a lot of fun with survival stuff in non-crazy ways. Um, there's plenty of crazies out there, but we can still find ways to make hobbies to learn to train and have fun. So anyway, be careful, take care of you and your family and each other. All right. And I'll see you next time on Braven Bushcraft. Almost said the other channel. Have a good time. God bless.